When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm South Carolina, so I just.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself.
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
Letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul. But why are you smiling?
Cause I'm happy to be here. We blessed and highly favored. It's a great day.
Chezia, Chezia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
I am grateful. I haven't seen you since the boat ride.
I know it was a good time. We went from sailing in the sun to now it's snow outside.
And that was Herb Brown celebrating what, 90?
100. It was the centennial. 100.
Not 99.
Nope, 100. 100 years.
Quite a force, quite a political force in Northwest Baltimore in the 41st District.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised by the old guard, as we say here. And so, if you know Vanguard, you know Uncle Herb. And I'm not going to say his nickname, but he had a nickname that most people knew. And, he was about service and he was about organization and really about community, specifically, of course, really building Black Northwest Baltimore in a variety of aspects. We talk about not the 41st, but the 40th district, where he had his business, his travel agency in Mondawmin Mall at a time where, Black people really weren't allowed to charter flights or, go to do certain things. So, yeah, we're grateful he's still here with us to give us these history lessons and learn from those examples.
It is so refreshing to hear you speak of the history of our people in this city. How old are you now, Chezia?
I mean, a lady never tells her age. Okay. But
when I met you, I thought you were like, 22, 23.
Yeah, that's how old I am. Yep.
But for you to know this history is what's refreshing to me. We must know, beyond Dr. King and Harriet Tubman, we need to know our real history.
Yes, yes.
I think of Little Willie Adams. I think of the first Blacks who were elected in the city, including Judge Joe Howard. Tell me about your granddad.
My granddad, Lawrence Cager Sr. Oh man. For one, as it's very interesting for me as I get older, right? I've gone from being my younger brother's sister, right? Lawrence's sister, to, my dad's daughter. And anybody who knows my grandfather or knew my grandfather, my dad, they address you by your last name. And so now I'm getting addressed by my last name, which is Cages. Not my name, which I'm my mother's namesake, but Cages in Baltimore City. You know, my grandfather was very community, very focused, and, you know, in his own way, not necessarily as visible as Uncle Herb or Chuck Thomas, but his own way was also a community organizer, and specifically very much so spent a lot of time on Pennsylvania Avenue. And I never got to see what Pennsylvania Avenue looked like, but I've seen pictures and I know what it used to look like back then. There we go. And so, you know, he was very implemental in those developments and those projects, you know, that really help Black businesses, since it's Black History Month, Black businesses thrive in West Baltimore. So, you know, we miss him dearly. But, you know, I'm trying to do the work. I'm trying to do everything they taught me to do.
Who is Chezia Cager?
Chezia Cager is a sister, a friend, a public servant, a straight shooter, an aunt. She is someone who you can come to with a problem and she's going to do her best to solve. She is someone who likes organization and structure and operations, but she is always hands down very much about her friends, her family, and her people, and especially her people in my hometown, in our hometown of Baltimore City. I'm a Northwest Baltimore girl, born and raised. I attended Roland Park Elementary and Middle School, and then I went across the bridge to Salisbury State for college and came back home. And my entire career has been in public service. Now, I didn't see it that way if you would have asked me when I went to college, but you know, your calling will keep calling until you answer. And one of the things that's so important to me, especially now as we kind of see what's happening in the country, is government is for the people. It's about making things efficient, making things operational, and making sure that we are serving the people.
So, Salisbury, how was it going from Baltimore to the Eastern Shore?
So, you know how parents have to have the talk with their kids
About the sundown towns?
Yeah, sundown town. So obviously I grew up again in Baltimore City, and I never had that talk. I was very aware of these things, right? Because of my dad, my grandfather, my great uncles, but I never had to have that talk. You know, put me in Cherry Hill, I'm going to be fine. You can put me on West North, I'm going to be fine. So driving to college, my dad had to talk with me. And I said, "Oh, okay, this is very different." And it even looked different. It looks very rural, is in my Baltimore accent, looks very rural, but it was different. But you know, Salisbury was a great experience, and I am glad that, you know, I got to see other parts of Maryland, because when I think about Maryland, right, from a Salisbury, a Comico County, to a Cambridge, to Baltimore City, we all want the same thing. It may look a little bit different. It may need a little bit different tweaking, but we all want the same thing. They have their same issues down there, the same type of issues we have here. It just looks a little bit different. But I still sit on one of the boards at my alma mater for Salisbury State University. And of course, I'm very involved with, you know, our sorority chapter. I'm an Eastern Shore K, so AKA. So, you know, it was different. But yeah, Dad had that talk with me. And I was like, oh, it was different, but it was a great experience.
How did you know you were on the Eastern Shore?
I mean, once you cross that bridge, it's evident. It's that flat slave plantation houses and land. And you know, we didn't vacation in Ocean City, so this was, you know, we didn't go there until I went to college there. So I mean, it's a completely different landscape. And so that's how, you know, I realized once we crossed that bridge, this is different. But it was good.
I didn't feel comfortable in Ocean City as a child or as an adult. I had to take my son there for some outing he had, and I had to talk with him, and then I got immediately out of town. It's just something about Ocean City that I don't feel welcome there.
You know, it's developed in its time. I think maybe you should give it a try. Just give it a try, because it's really developed. I mean, even my school doesn't look anything like what it looked like when I was, you know, there decades ago. I think you should give it a try, though. But you know, just the same way we have our cultures, and you know, in Baltimore City, you know, we like our things a certain way. They like their things a certain way across the bridge too, and that's okay.
I've never been called a darky before until I went over
See,
that part of the world.
see,
And I tell you something else. They got the biggest mosquitoes in America.
it's different. I mean, you in the country. You in the country.
I mean, these mosquitoes got landing pads. They were like helicopters.
Oh gosh. I mean, yeah, it's different. Once you cross that bridge, it's different. You are definitely not in an urban city anymore.
Now, one thing they do have that I do love is food.
Oh yes, yes, seafood, especially seafood, so good.
I ate the biggest
really
crabs
cheap
in my
too.
life over there. So I had to
Great
excuse
prices.
Klansmen and get straight to the crabs. That's a big
See, Doni, see,
I'm sorry.
it's Black History Month.
Well, black people, if you've ever been called a darky, it's the equivalent of the N-word. It was quite an experience, to say the least. Okay. So after college, then what?
After college, well, let's start with during college. So during college, I kind of got into public service a little bit voluntold. I didn't get to go on spring breaks or any of that. I spent my summer breaks, my winter breaks, spring break, any free time I had, I spent working in the 41st district in Annapolis under, the elected officials at that time. And, that was pretty much, my parents saying, you're going to go give back. So I learned constituent services. Usually was the beginning of session for winter break before I went back to school. So, I got to see folks lobby for bills. And, that was really interesting for me because I'd be like, you lobbying to fix this, but in Baltimore City, I'm seeing all these disparities, but y'all care about that. And so I think that was my early stages of kind of seeing what inequity looks like, but also making sure that people had the resources and knew what was available to them. I graduated from college and then I came home, and most people don't know this, I actually worked in Enoch Pratt in the executive office under Carla Hayden, who is now the Library of Congress. And I worked there for 3 months and I loved it, doing, development, and I'm a bookworm, so I was in my very happy place. And then I got a call. And then I went to work for Mayor Dixon, who, became mayor because Governor O'Malley at the time, won his race. And, from there, it's just been a public service journey from municipal government, state government to federal government.
Federal government, Lord have mercy. What are you thinking right now with a president who is attempting to dismantle the civility of this country?
We are in a constitutional crisis. And I don't say that to be alarming, but we are absolutely in a constitutional crisis. And, it's very disheartening for me because I know people personally who are involved. I know more people across this nation are going to be impacted severely. And I'm not just talking about, jobs. I'm talking about your quality of life. People are scared to fly right now because we're watching these plane crashes happen that shouldn't happen. So, it's very, very personal because government, like I stated, is supposed to be for the people and help people. And when you are watching people dismantle government so they can privatize it for profit, it's a problem. And so, right now, I don't want to get into parties, but, the Republicans have the executive branch and the legislative branch. So, I'm hoping 2026, people come out and vote. So hopefully, our legislative branch can, get the support they need. But it's very disheartening, and I'm very, very concerned about it, as are most people in our nation. But it's also a message to everybody that politics affects you. So you can say, I'm not political. You can say, I'm not into that. Politics is going to affect you one way or another, and we're living it.
I've heard people say that many times over the years. I'm not political. And I say to them, everything you do is political.
Yep. Absolutely. It's here. So I think this is an example of a time where a lot of people will become civically engaged, and, hopefully we are able to withstand this as a nation. But we are in a constitutional crisis. You know, I've been on a couple of calls with people who are asking me, you know, what can I do? How can I support? And, you know, I'm like, if you live in a red state, look and see what your legislator is doing. You know, for us in Maryland, luckily our state delegation is very active, but you gotta hold your legislators accountable, which should be the normal. You shouldn't just hold them accountable in a crisis. You have to hold all them accountable at all times because, like you said, politics is going to affect you. So don't say you're political.
I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. We have, as a community, been leaving West Baltimore since the 60s. We've been moving out to Liberty Road. This is separate from your race, the 41st. This is up in the 10th, Liberty Road. Most of my family lives out there, Randallstown, Woodlawn, Owens Mills. When Councilman Jones runs for county executive, that one black council person, it would be smart if the good black people, because Northwest, the 41st, the 40th, you know, middle-class black folk, but you move out Liberty Road, they make a little more money, bigger houses, but politically not that engaged. There's nobody on deck. Now I know Julian Jones has an assistant who will probably put their hat in the ring, but the broader community does not have a candidate. And just below him is Izzy Patoka, who used to be here in Baltimore City, Jewish guy. We have more numbers, but they've got a better plan, at least in that 10th district, just on what I'm seeing. I mean, you're going to have Izzy Patoka, Julian Jones, and maybe Pat Young running for county, all from the west side of the county. How do we get more transparency? I'll be 60 this year. How do we get more younger people? How do we get, and again, you're 22, right? But how do we get people younger than me politically involved?
Yeah. And so when I was on the state central committee for Baltimore City, we used to discuss this, you know, quite often. And, you know, my answer is still the same. It's very simple, right? Education, awareness, and connecting the dots. Oftentimes, you know, people think we can just tell people you need to vote. It's important. Our ancestors died. That's not enough. You got to connect the dots for people. So as I just talked about, and we just talked about how politics is going to affect you one way or another, find out what that young person is passionate about and then show them a legislation that shows how it affects you. So here's a bill or here's an executive action. You care about this. You don't like it? Why don't you like it? You want to change it? Here's how you can change it. You want to call and lobby, right? Because you don't get on Twitter. They're not reading that. You need to send an email or you need to call or you need to write a letter. You need to lobby. And so it's really connecting the dots for people on what's important to them. And we have to think outside the box. You can't send an email. You can't just have a phone call. You have to go to where the younger people are and have a dialogue. Because once you explain something to them, and once you show how it matters and it impacts them, then they're all in and they're ready to do, you know, what they need to do to make sure their voice is heard.
Where
But
do I
we can't
find
sit back.
where do I find the young people?
Where do you find the young people? I mean, you know, they're sometimes on social media. They also game a lot. You know, I have a younger brother who's 27 and he's a gamer. And we kind of saw that in this recent election where, you know, Governor Tim Walz would get on the video games and talk policy. You know, they're engaged when it's warm. They're always doing, you know, a festival or at the basketball court. But we have to go to them. We can't wait for them to come to us. And again, we have to think outside the box and make policy easy to understand, right? Like this on us.
Hold on. I saw people breaking down Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. They broke it down from the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the metaphysical, the transcendental, the economic, the social. You mean to tell me I can't take that same concept and apply it to politics.
No, you absolutely should. And if we're talking about the Super Bowl performance, that entire performance was political. Did you see what he did with the flag?
Come on, tell me.
You didn't see what he did with the flag and how the people were dressed? And
Red,
those
white,
images?
blue, some had masks, some had do-rags.
Come on now.
Beanies.
That entire performance was political. What did he say? The revolution what?
Will be televised.
And that's not all he said. We know what he said. It's Black History Month.
He said the right time, but the wrong guy.
Right. And we know why he said that. So yes, it's translating that. It's going where they are, meeting them halfway.
Do we need a hip hop political movement here in Baltimore?
You know, there was legislation in the session last year for Hip Hop Service Day, and it was being, I can't think. I know it was sponsored by Senator Carter and co-sponsored by Senator McCray, but it was really students at Coppin State University, a group of young ladies actually, who really wanted to intertwine both. And I thought it was a great idea because we love our music, right? Our music is the culture, as Beyonce has proven time and time again. And if we can intertwine hip hop with service, why not? So maybe not a movement, but I really think intertwining any type of music with service to our people and how we give back, especially if it is giving back on multiple levels, right? So of course there's food drives and cleanups, but really centering around a movement of we're going to come together as a community and do something that benefits our community, even if we just, do one spot this day or maybe monthly or, yearly, but coming together. And I think that's what I think when you say that, that's what first comes to mind, because that's what music does. Music brings people together.
Who is Lawrence Cager?
My dad. You know who Lawrence Cager is. My dad.
When I was working for him.
You work for my dad?
He worked in Sandtown. Yeah, he was one of the big wigs in Sandtown.
Oh gosh.
He used to come in, he looked like an Undertaker. He was Undertaker or the police.
He was not the police, I can tell you that. Let me clear that up. He was not the police or the Undertaker.
No, but he took, my dad was an Undertaker. He reminded me of certainly the old school. Mm-hmm. Certainly the Herb Browns, certainly the men. And this is where I'm going with this, Chezia. Where we used to be the most married community in America, the most married ethnic group, 40s, 50s, 60s. Now we are 70% single mother households. Mm-hmm. So when I think of Mr. Cager and all I have heard from him about you, and then to hear you on this platform paying homage to the likes of a Herb Brown, to the various vanguards and political groups, how do we replicate that? How do we get more of our young people to understand? I know when I used to go to my son's school, I was probably one of the only dads to visit the classroom. But that was my safe space. Didn't have to knock on his mama's door. I could go straight to the school. But you find yourself being a surrogate dad to his buddies.
Right, yeah.
What's the significance of the Black man in the family?
Leadership, protection, life lessons. My brother and I joke because I am very much a daddy's girl. I'm a mommy's girl too. But, we joke and say I'm the first son because I'm probably more like my dad than my brother is because of, what he instilled in me at such a young age. And, when we think about not just my dad, but all our ancestors and all our elders in the community, it's so, so important to keep those lessons because we have to learn from their mistakes. You know, you mentioned how can we kind of recreate Vanguard, and I'm going to say we can't, because that was a time and an era where they were doing something so unthought of, but so necessary, so revolutionary. And now times have changed. So we can't recreate Vanguard, but we can take those lessons, we can take those teachings. And, I want to it's Black History Month. So, while we talk about Uncle Herb and Little Willie, there's Victorine, there's Juanita, there's Raymond, there's my girlfriend Clay's grandmother, Madeline Murphy. There's, of course, Walter and Perrin and Verda. So, we have so many of our elders from Baltimore who gave us the formula and the blueprint. And we really just have to take those and do the right thing and what's necessary to build community and be organized. Because if anything, that is the biggest lesson I got from Uncle Herb. They were very, very organized, and everybody, did what was necessary in their role so the community could thrive.
I just had an idea.
Okay.
Where's your book?
I don't have it. You didn't tell me to bring it.
You've written a book already?
I did not written a book, but I wrote a textbook. So my mother, before she retired from Micah, she redid the Humanities Studies program, and we did that textbook together because I'm also a social scientist. And so in her footsteps, I'm a professor too. But a lot of me is in there because I love social science and I love to study, as you hear me talk about history. But maybe a book one day, maybe.
A textbook. Who published it?
It was self-published, and I think I wanted, don't quote me on this, but of Black Classic Press. I want to say she published it through Black Classic Press because Paul Coates, Ta-Nehisi's dad, as we talk about parents, Ta-Nehisi's dad. So I think that actually might have been published there because, that's where she did a couple of her books. But yeah, we did a textbook together, my mother and I. Okay,
now, you're a professor?
I am. I'm a professor at a community college. I've been a professor for almost 10 years, and I love it.
How is today's student versus the students that you came along with?
So, community college is a bit different because it's not, 19-year-olds coming out of high school. It's a variety of socioeconomic ages and backgrounds. For me, I wanted to teach because, one, of course, I saw my mother teach my entire life, but I really wanted to take everything that I learned and experience and give it back to, the next generation so they can be better than me and better than you and better than my dad. And so it's interesting because we kind of have pre-pandemic students and then after pandemic students. And, for me, I'm always on the lessons and the mentorship, especially with my students. I'm probably a little kinder to them in that sense, a little more gracious. But the pandemic students, are kind of reintegrating themselves back into society. And this is kind of from a social science perspective, because, they were isolated for so long. And so we gotta have have those conversations. This is how you dress for an interview. This is how you dress for a virtual interview. But I really, love it because I love giving them that safe space to pick my brain and to make them better, and to go out in the world and be amazing.
41st District. I've heard concerns about Edmondson Village Shopping Center. It's my understanding that there's a covenant already in place between the shopping center and the community. The challenge is that developers want to come in and disrupt that covenant to do more of what they want. The community does not want, from what I've gathered, more fast food, chicken box spots, liquor stores. They want order. You mentioned the term earlier, order. I know when you go to Pikesville, there's a certain order. I always wondered how come they ain't got no speed cameras on Ricestown Road. They got them all on the big. But anyway, Edmondson Village Shopping Center, what are you hearing from the community?
Yeah, I know, first thing was when the giant left, it was immediate concern about a food desert, and the local leadership, the city councilmen, the previous and the current, did an amazing job of rallying the community, getting concerns, and making sure that, they will have not one, but two grocery stores there. I think it's going to, in that area, as we know, Emerson Village, because that's where my grandmother's house is very strong, very vocal, and very active. And so I think it's going to, be a combination, not necessarily of just fast food spots, because, that Popeyes was there forever. We don't need that. And we do need to look at healthier options. And hopefully those grocery stores, those incoming grocery stores will, be a voice in that, because I know they're relatively new. One is an Aldi, and I can't think of the other one, but relatively new and focus on, health. As we see, my mom went to Federals, we talk about food and, those things, but focus on health and organic and, things for our people. It would be great to have, good fine dining so people don't have to drive to Pikesville and can, spend their money in their home, in their community, and give back. But I know those community associations are very vocal. I can just think of three right off the top who are going to be very present in holding accountability where needed to make sure that the shopping center, is what it needs to be. And luckily, I can't give a round of applause enough to the local leadership, and our state delegation too. Our state delegation will be very involved, because I'm sure they're going to ask, for some funding to, make sure that development goes how it needs to be.
How do you balance low income, moderate income, upwardly mobile income? How do you deliver a Edmondson Village shopping center that can cater to those three strata?
I mean, I think it's possible. When you say balance, right, this is a community. So I think about it as this is a community, and what does the community need? So we know we're getting two grocery stores, maybe two different types, one probably more like a Trader Joe's, one more, fresh food, fresh vegetables in a traditional grocery sense. But the community there is still really active in terms of how they support each other. This Thanksgiving, I did a Thanksgiving drive in that parking lot where that grocery store used to be, with 5 other organizations who showed up just because we asked. And we handed out turkeys, we handed out resources, we handed out produce. So it's really going to be, a coalition, a collective effort.
What makes you the best choice tonight for the replacement of Dara, who's now gone on to the Senate?
I will say, I've seen, as we talk about order, as we talk about community, if we're talking about government, I've served in the executive branch on a municipal, executive, and state level. If we're talking about community, I've built coalitions nationwide. But first and foremost, I'm a Northwest Baltimore girl. And when Northwest Baltimore, or Baltimore City in general, calls, I'm going to always answer that call. I do a lot of stuff in the 41st, and I have, and my family has, and we've just done it quietly because that's what we're supposed to do. We partner every year with a school to do a Thanksgiving drive.
Why you say that? That's what we're supposed to do.
That's what we're supposed to do.
On stage or something again. I see them all over it.
That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do. So, every year for the last decade, I've partnered with a school in the 41st around Thanksgiving, to make sure.
Why are we supposed to do this?
Because it's our responsibility. It's our home.
Nobody says that today, Chezia.
Yeah, well, I say it. It's our home. It's rooted in us. If we're not going to take care of our own home, then why are we here? And you can't complain about it if you're not taking care of it. It's our responsibility.
You make too much sense. This is not what people are thinking. I'm seeing people throw chicken bones out their door, or people out Liberty Road complaining about politics, but they don't know their council person's phone number, or they don't even know how many delegates there are in their district.
Well, sometimes
we know the Ravens. We know every Raven.
We got to lift as we climb, right? And so it's we have to lift as we climb, and we have to go to them, because I hear you fussing, but they're still our people. They're still ours. So, sometimes you might have to pull up. You might have to pull up on a young brother and say, "There's a trash can there. Put your chicken bone in there." And if the sister doesn't know who her representatives are, pull it up on her phone and show her. It's our responsibility.
Okay, Chezia. Okay. Well, what about Baltimore City Public Schools? You got Emerson West Side right there. I know it was in the middle of the pandemic, and Baltimore City Public Schools decided, hey, Emerson West Side doesn't need these certain training programs, certain VOTEC programs. Let's pull them from Emerson West Side. And it was there were a handful of people fighting for Emerson West Side, the skills center, but then it just disappeared. The effort North Avenue did what they wanted. I was floored. Where's the outrage?
So, I'm going to put my Vanguard hat on here. Outrage has to be organized. Outrage has to be organized. Not a tweet, not a Facebook post. Outrage has to be organized. And so again, Mr. Glover, it's on us to organize. It's our responsibility.
We can get together for AFRAM, for a party.
You're right. You're right. But it's on us. We have to show how that works.
I got one for you.
It's on us. We have to show how that works. And that's okay. Professor Chaz is saying we have to teach and lift as we climb.
It's challenging, though. We are difficult people.
We are. But I think that's what not necessarily makes it easy.
Peculiar.
Because
let me take that back.
Peculiar.
We are peculiar.
Yes, but we are, especially Baltimoreans,
And if we don't know you, if you're from somewhere else.
What high school did you go to? You see how I ran down my schools. I ain't
Dunbar.
But that's us.
And Lamel. Don't forget Lamel.
Oh my gosh, I had friends who went to Lamel. But and so again, it's our responsibility. This is our home. And nobody's coming to save us. Okay? This is our home. So it's our responsibility. My friends are always tired of hearing me talk about that when it comes to voter engagement and lobbying, because I'm teaching them the structure of how to get what you want. So if you don't like this, then let's talk about how you get what you want, because there are other people who know how to participate in this structure and this organization to get what you want. So let me show you, so now you can implement it. And then you go teach 5 friends and have those friends teach 5 friends. And the lessons keep getting passed down the same way our elders taught us. It just passes down. But outrage, to your point, has to be organized. It's that simple.
Do we know enough of our own Black history?
We can always learn more Black history. We can always learn more Black history.
I mean, like in the 41st district, it seems like as this whole 41st district, state senate, state delegate thing unravels, people don't seem to know the historical context and value of Elisa Gladden beating a Barbara Hoffman for the state senate seat, and what that meant for a majority Black community.
Yeah, I think, I think most people are always open to learn, right? And they're open to receiving knowledge and learning, but we can't assume that they know. And to be fair, we can't condescend either for them not knowing. But most people are open to learning their history.
Because we know Kendrick Lamar's new dance, but we don't know who our state senator is or who our 3 delegates are, or even the function of a state central committee. No, I meet somebody, hey, I want to get into politics. What you running for? I'm running for mayor. But you don't even know what state central committee does.
But what I will say is they're running for mayor probably because they want to have the impact, right? I'm going to be positive here. They want to have the impact and they have ideas. So even the process of them probably learning how to run for mayor, even if it's just as simple as filing, is a step. So should they be mayor? Maybe not, but it's a step.
When you go in a gym,
they want to do something, and I'm telling you, Doni, you can't condescend that, because that's also one of the things that's going to turn our people away. You can't be condescending.
When you go into a gym, do you go straight for the 200-pound bar and start doing curls, or do you start with like 20, 30 pounds? Get the hang of this.
You're only as good as your team. And so sometimes if you got a great team, you can go straight to the dumbbells. But you got to be willing, that's the difference, to listen, learn, and receive. But we need to accept, and I'm not saying congratulate, but accept that they're taking the step to be engaged. Because before, you were talking about nobody's engaged. So if a young kid comes up to me,
a young kid is one thing. I'm talking about people 50, 60, or 70 who don't know the daggone rules. And here's something else. And this is why I think your generation has to be supported. Rarely do we see older blacks passing the ball to younger blacks. Older blacks feel like, and I'm not saying other communities, we're talking specifically about ours. No different than Latinos, Jews, Koreans, Asians, what have you. But in our community, we'll see certain people running national organizations who've been there 20 years, and you've yet to pass the ball, dude.
Yeah.
You're a millionaire, and you ain't passing the ball.
Mentorship. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have to find me new editors, new writers, new journalists. It is imperative that if I don't, I fail. What will you do to ensure each one reach one?
Each one teach one. We lift as we climb. We mentor. My goal for, and I have a couple young women who I mentor, is for them to be better than me. I had so many women who poured into me, instilled in me, because they wanted me to be better. And I would not be half the things that I am without those mentors. And so my goal is to always give it back. The goal is to be better than your mentor. And your mentor responsibility is to help you get there. So, we got to keep lifting as we climb.
Chezia, give me one piece of legislation you would push on your first day in Annapolis.
That's a good one. Right now, as we think about home, we know they're dealing with a couple of things from the budget aspect. So for me, I would probably, let's think about committee work if we're thinking of, HGO, Health and Government Operations, because, I'm an operations and, executive branch guru. I would really be looking at the agencies to see how we can be more effective. What really comes to mind is in that is, trying to shrink the deficit a little bit. And how can we do that, internally? How can we, strengthen our own workforce and not contract out? So it'd probably be something surrounding that. Something probably around the budget, maybe education. But, they've kind of got that blueprint covered. But definitely looking at our agencies and making sure they're efficient and, oversight.
When you think of Edmondson Avenue, if you had a magic wand to wave over, and y'all got to get rid of that damn speed light camera at Edmondson and Hilton. It is too fast. They need to slow that thing down. I don't even like going up Emerson Avenue. That right there, that Emerson Hill, that light's too fast. It's a setup. It's like going through a small town, Salisbury, Maryland. But anyway, I'm creeping coming down Emerson Avenue because I know that light right there, and you got to rush to get through one and slow down to get to the. Okay, what would
well, you're not supposed to be speeding. That's why it's there. So if you're going the speed limit,
but
then
you want to take that light at Emerson Hilton, don't do it, boo boo.
Don't do it. That's why the camera's there.
But they ain't got none on Ricestown Road.
No, you know
they got none on Washington Boulevard. Why they got them all up in the black community?
They have some. Hold on. They have some on Washington. They have one on Washington.
Washington Boulevard. Name one.
I'm seeing it. Oh, you know what? Never mind. It's by MLK.
People be gunning out there, but they're all Mondawmin. People just went to Mondawmin for whatever. You better slow down going up Ricestown Road right there in New Bethlehem. What would you do for the roadway of Emerson Avenue? If you had a magic wand,
yeah.
I know Sheila Dixon was big on cleaner, greener.
Baltimore.
She traveled that strip a lot. What would you do to improve, enhance Emerson Avenue? Up here we got Wanada. Big ups to Senator Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's probably going to be the vacants. It's the vacant housing. Because, when you think about the vacants, it draws other things. So if I had a magic wand, the vacants are rehabbed and, we're building real estate. We're looking at that area of, because when you think about the village in that straight shot of 40, right, Emerson Ave down, you're going right into downtown Baltimore where all those schools are. So for me, especially when we think about medical schools, it's kind of recreating what East Baltimore did in that area by that medical school, right? They rehabbed those houses and they're thriving. And so that straight shot of 40, literally up and down, right? Because that's special. You can go to the county, right? You go to Catonsville, or you can go straight downtown. It's literally a straight shot. So I would look at housing. Magic wand, let's get these vacants, up and up on sale.
Chezia, I live here in Sandtown. Easily one could move to Randallstown, Owens Mills, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 houses. You're not going to get an upwardly mobile black woman, college educated, to move to Sandtown. We do see white people moving to Sandtown and buying houses. How do we make Baltimore more attractive to us?
I think Baltimore is still attractive to us. I think if you're speaking of the real estate and the marketing, it's going to be employment. So when you probably see, people moving here, they're probably, as I just mentioned, right? Because I talked about the medical schools. You have a lot of people come here for medical school and then they stay because we have some of the best medical institutions. So it's going to be employment. That's how when you think about a PG County or Montgomery County, people live in those suburbs because they want to work in DC and DC is too expensive. So we're a little too far from DC, we're further out. So they don't necessarily want to live here because they don't want to do the MARC train, but it's going to have to be, employment.
Any final thoughts as to why you want this delegate seat tonight? Any I'm going to give you the floor. Let's give you a practice spiel. We present to you Chezia Cagers. She wants to be delegate for the 41st district. Chezia, let's hear from you.
Well, servant leadership is my motto when it comes to public service. And, I've already stated, I've worked in policy, operations, coalition building, strategic planning, but it's always with the goal of driving solutions that create lasting change. When you think about what you really need in our city, and we kind of discussed here today, it's really a lot about listening. It's a lot about partnership. It's keeping the communication channels open and working together. This isn't a one person role. It's a vessel. It's a vessel for one person to serve the community. Public service matters to me because I believe government should be a force for good. It should listen, respond, and actively work to improve the lives of people it serves. And so that's what has driven me in my career, not just to be in the room where decisions are made, but to make sure those decisions reflect the voices of the people it serves.
Pretty good. What do you want people to do tonight? How's it go down?
I believe it's on Facebook Live on the Baltimore Dems page. So I think 6:00.
What made you do this?
A couple of things,
And I mean,
when I
put your
think
hat in the ring for Delegate for 41st.
when I think about, kind of what our elders built, what Vanguard organized and built, and the unity it created across the community, and then I'll call them the alum that came out of that community. And then I even look at my own alum from, my early public servant days. It's about recreating that. This is about the future. This is about the next generation, but this is also about building and maintaining relationships so our home can thrive. So what made me do it was it's time. Your calling will keep calling till you answer. And we have to step up for each other. We have to step up for our people. We have to step up for everybody. It's a lot happening in the world right now, and a lot is going to change, especially as we look at the federal government. That's going to have a huge impact on Maryland. One of the things for me is, I understand how all the branches of government interact and all the layers from federal, state to municipal, because I did it for so long. So, it's about servant leadership. It's about being for our communities and working together so we can, be the best Baltimore that we can be.
Chezia, you've said that you are a daddy's girl. How are you a mommy's girl?
Oh, well, I'm her namesake, so I'm named after my mom. So, I refer to her as Dr. Namesake, but I'm a mommy's girl and probably, the educator, the mentorship one. I mean, that's where that comes from.
What's the lesson? You can hear it in the back of your head. 30 years from now, you can hear what is. Give me one of her lines.
Trust your intuition. All the time. Trust your intuition. Hands down. And it has served me very, very well.
Good. Chezia, we're proud of you. God bless you. And we can't wait to see what comes out of this. I am proud that you are politically engaged, politically involved. I have a daughter who's turning 24 in 3 days. And it is my hope that she would at least take on some of the political direction of the elders. And I'm very proud of your dad. I don't know if I've met your mom, but I do see that you are a fruit from your parents' tree. They've got to be very proud of you. Any advice for those people running against you?
No, they're all good people. They're all good people. We probably just have different ways of doing things.
Yeah. So when you become mayor, I like to stick with media communications.
I'm never going to become mayor. No, that's not for me.
Governor?
Never. No.
Governor?
No. We have a great governor. I wish he could stay there.
He can't stay forever.
I wish he could, though.
He can't.
I wish he could. I know he can't.
I think y'all's birthday is around the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's a Libra too. He is. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Doni, thank you so much for having me. I'm so humbled. Thank you for all you do for our community. And
a lot of people called me up and said you better have Chezia on. I was like, okay.
People get real passionate.
Big wigs come leaning on me. Hey.
People get real passionate sometimes, but we'll let that speak to my work. I just do the work, and when you help people, they become very passionate and supportive. So
good deal. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, world.